Hey everyone, it's co-host Peter Cook with I'd Buy That for $1, and we are still on our break between seasons. I'm recording this introduction in the office at my house in downtown Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is a lot more echoey inside as well as a lot more noisy outside than co-host Jeremy's house where I normally record, so apologies in advance if you hear anything weird other than me. We will be back with Season 6 on October 1st, 2024. Now that we have each aired a rewind episode for you, it is time for us to unlock a Patreon episode to give you a sense of what you can get in return for supporting the podcast over at patreon.com/I'd Buy That Podcast. On our bonus episodes, we typically feature 45s rather than LPs. For the one that we have selected to unlock, we are going back to January of 2022 when we talked about the Consolers, a gospel group. And we just thought this was a fun episode with some really interesting music for you to check out. If you like it, please go over to patreon.com/I'd Buy That Podcast and sign up to support the show today and get some really cool bonus content in return. So give it a listen. And once again, we'll be back on October 1st with Season 6. I guess we already have Sean with the punctuality for a cold open.
Yep, and I recorded that too. I've been recording for a full minute and 11 seconds.
Oh, I didn't even hear it. Was it funny?
It was so fucking funny, dude. You're going to laugh so hard when you listen back to this and edit the episode. I can't wait.
Oh my God, I can't wait either. I'm so excited to hear.
Get ready.
You'll be doing it soon because this episode's due to our waiting patrons.
Due tomorrow.
Arms, yeah.
Welcome to I'd Buy That for $1, a podcast about inexpensive, common, and underappreciated records that are waiting to be rediscovered. I'm your host, Sean Hartman, and I'm just glad to be in the number.
In the number?
Yeah, it's a title of a gospel song. It's kind of like I'm happy to be here, but the gospel version. I'm just glad to be in the number.
Like when the saints come marching in?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You know.
How I want to be in that number.
The number of the saved, the chosen few, the righteous.
Oh. See, I didn't catch your language drift, bro, because I'm the cool pastor at the New Holiness Church, and that's NU.
Yeah, good. Tell me more.
No. You have to come on Wednesday where they'll have free pizza.
Well, it sounds totally sick.
Well, if that's all you have, co-host Jeremy Ruggles, which
I'm going to do a kickflip.
I like it. Well, I am co-host Peter Cook, and I like to play the Atari 2600 console. I like to play asteroids and go pew, 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 pew.
Like a church pew? God damn it.
No, like the last name of the people that we're featuring.
Oh, wow. That too. Wow, it's got layers.
Wow.
It's so layered.
Whoa, and console. Oh my gosh, brain melting.
This is premium content.
I'm going to do a double kickflip now, bro.
Just for our patrons.
Oh, Lord. I'm Jeremy Ruggles, and I'm a heathen who has brought to you a gospel 45 by the Consolers, and I'm going to play the first song just so you know why.
Before we get into this, I just want to say that I'm very impressed that Jeremy stuck to his stubbornness on the Sergio Mendes episode when we told him not to talk about Christmas because Christmas was over. and now he's bringing a Christmas record.
You weren't supposed to mention that yet.
I wonder if we were going to touch on it or if we were just going to leave that section alone. That Jeremy had accidentally picked a Christmas record and is now just sticking with it because, God damn it, it's good music anyways.
Guys, I've changed. In the new year, I love Christmas, and I'm starting now.
Okay.
There's two things I love, Christmas and Jesus, and I don't care what month it is.
I'm about to let those bells ring.
Let the bells ring. Let the bells ring. Let them ring for the whole world to hear. Let there be no doubt that we have forgot the Christ child who was born in Bethlehem. Let the children sing. Let the children sing. Let them sing for the whole world to hear. Oh, let there be no doubt that we have forgot the Christ child who was born in Bethlehem. Christmas morning, when we gather around the Christmas tree with our family. Oh, let there be no doubt that we have.
Wowie.
Truly, wowie. Those vocals,
Mm-hmm.
they're ruthless.
So raw and passionate, yet tender at the same time with the like delicate instrumental accompaniment. Love this group.
Yeah, it seems like it's just guitar and bells accompanying them. Is there anything else, or is that about it?
I think there was some organ in there.
There was organ too. You're correct. Yep, there was
And
organ.
I think some bass. I have no idea who played any of those things other than Sullivan Pugh plays the guitar for them. But I don't know who was playing on any of those things, and I couldn't find information on it. Probably just studio folk? Uncredited studio folk?
Could be. I also love how the first half of that song, it's like, okay, they're singing about Jesus being born. That's typically a Christmas subject, but maybe it's just religious. And then he was like, and we're standing around the Christmas tree. He's like, nope, this is a Christmas song. There's no explaining it anymore.
Certain components that definitely make it a Christmas record.
So you know what's funny about this 45 for me? You don't know because you're not me. But I'm going to tell you is that I associate, when I hear this, it takes me back to Sean's garage when he lived here in town with co-host Peter and I,
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Kalamazoo, Michigan. And he had all these records in his garage, and I'd go over there and hang out, and he'd show me things and tell me a bunch of stuff because he knows a bunch of stuff and I don't. And we're trying to find some 45s, and I wanted the gospel thing, and this is the one that jumped out at me. And I didn't know anything about the Consolers. It just jumped out because of the way it was sang.
It is very striking.
Yeah. And it takes me back to like summer in Sean's garage, even though it's a Christmas thing.
Aw, I love that association.
But Jesus was born in the summer anyways, right?
Yeah, probably.
I think I've heard that somewhere. That's a fact now because I said it.
I back it 100%.
Well, let me tell you who the Consolers are, because as I dug in, I was like, oh, of course, that is the appeal to me, who is not a religious person, if you couldn't tell by now. But let me tell you about Sullivan and Iola, who are the husband and wife duo who really are the Consolers. You got Sullivan Pugh, born in Moorhaven, Florida, 1925. And at the age of 3, his mother was among 2,500 people that perished during the Great Okeechobee Hurricane, which was one of the largest natural disasters in American history. And I had not heard of it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that either prior to this.
Yeah, that's a huge toll of human life, especially, for that era. And Iola Lewis, born in Cottonton, Alabama in 1926, a year later than Sullivan, her mother also passed when she was 3 years old, and she was raised by her grandmother past that point. So that was a strange parallel in their lives to have both lost their mothers when they were 3 years old.
Yeah.
But Iola attended Claflin College in South Carolina, then moved to Miami, where Sullivan had already moved himself to Miami. They're on a collision course, if you couldn't guess.
Yeah. So many parallels.
So Iola and Sullivan end up meeting at a tent revival in Miami. And if you don't know what a tent revival is, it's this big congregation that has had a few waves of popularity in America. But from my understanding, it's kind of like a pushback against formalism in Christianity and trying to bring back the more core spirit of it. Does that sound right to you too?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Big tent revival.
Yeah.
It was also often like a traveling thing, from my understanding. Like, you didn't just set up a tent and hold church in the same town. Like, you went from town to town holding these services.
Yeah, you'd have a big event to draw people in, and the idea was to connect them to their local churches and it's sort of like a recruiting almost
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get people into the faith.
Gorilla.
Yeah. So they met there and then were married in 1950. A year later, they formed the Miami Soul Stirrers, and a certain Pearl Nance Redford was also with them. It was a trio. She left because it did not, it didn't take off. So their trio became a duo.
They didn't become the overnight stars that she was expecting.
I guess not. Which, we'll get into the more religious stuff later, because that's a whole rabbit hole. I spent more than half my time trying to make heads or tails of the various denominations of Christianity and their histories. It's all very confusing to me.
Oh man, we could turn that into a whole podcast.
It sounds
True.
so fun.
So as a duo, they become the Consolers, and they put out their first singles in 1952 and are signed to Nashboro Records in 1955, where they would crank out gospel hits for 25 years, including this 45, which came out on Nashboro. During the golden age of gospel, they were one of the big names in that era, which I did not know previous to this.
Yeah, one of those many things where if you weren't a part of it, or didn't grow up with people that were familiar with this thing, it's an entire genre that can just go almost unnoticed. And so many of the people within it were huge stars within their own communities, within the religious community.
Yeah, and very few crossed over into the pop sphere like Mahalia Jackson.
Right. Well, I mean, you had like a lot of people who were in the gospel circuit at a younger age and then crossed over into secular music, but it was more rare for someone to become like a mainstream gospel star. You had to kind of give up performing gospel and sacred music, and you were often kind of ostracized from the gospel community once you made that leap.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and judging by what I've read about the Pews, they were not primed to go that direction. They were both part of the Church of the Living God, which was part of the holiness movement. I guess this is tied to like Methodism, from my understanding, and John Wesley's belief that people, once they commit to Jesus Christ, they start trying to perfect themselves and start trying to move towards this like idea of holy perfection, and not like, just rely on their sins getting forgiven, but, stop sinning and start living how you're supposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And with that, I mean, one of the things I found interesting is that a lot of this was tied to a rejection of kind of the superficiality of the church and Protestantism, which became a very middle class denomination of Christianity in that era. And these holiness movements kind of swooped in and served like the urban poor that had been left behind, and sort of created a place for them to, act out their faith. And that faith was very much based in modesty and
Humbleness.
loving Jesus a lot. And that's where the Consolers, I think, become interesting to me, is it's very gruff and it's rough around the edges. I was listening to a variety of songs throughout their career, and there's like mistimed notes, like off-key singing. It's like outsider feeling. And the fervor with which they are religious also gives it kind of an outsider feel to me in this day and age.
I will confess that I sometimes struggle to understand if vocals are conventionally good or not, because I've ruined my ears from listening to so much noise and outsider music. Trout Mask Replica, Captain Beefheart. I struggle to grasp that. Like other people, I'll put something on, they're like, "Oh, these vocals are off key and bad and horrible," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even notice." But I wondered with this one. I was like, to me, these voices sound awesome. Like they're very real and authentic.
Like this is as good as it gets, right?
But I wondered if I was like, I don't know if these might actually be pretty raw, and they might be not. They might be singing off key.
But I wouldn't have it any other way, though. I honestly have like the opposite reaction, where if something is like too perfectly executed, it just feels weird to me. Almost like an uncanny valley kind of feeling. Like I just get uncomfortable.
Yeah, and a lot of religious music, frankly, has moved in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hyper polished, hyper harmonized, and clean,
yeah.
and
ultra sterilized.
Yeah, and this feels like a full-on rejection of that, which it was before any of that even happened. Like it stands in that same rejection that Christian formalism has continued in these days.
Yeah, the general idea of what Christianity means to the average American is so much different now than it was in the 60s. I mean, a lot of that began to fundamentally change in the 70s.
Ooh, nice play on words.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also to add to the outsiderness, if you watch a video of them, Sullivan, who writes a lot of the words for these songs, he plays guitar, but he plays it very strangely. He he holds it kind of tipped up the way a slide guitar player might have it to play it. But he's not playing with a slide. He's like using his thumb to fret down the fingerboard, and it's just very strange and not a good way to play guitar.
I've seen that done in a couple other cases, and I can't remember where. I'm guessing it's in an open tuning and just using the thumb.
Yeah.
So that you can just create a chord by pressing your thumb down anywhere on the fretboard.
Yeah.
But, yeah. For those that are not guitar players out there.
Yeah, I don't know. My guess is that like he saw someone playing that way with a slide or something and just thought that's how you play guitar. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
I've seen early blues musicians doing very like abnormal finger styles like that. And a lot of it just comes from a complete lack of any access to formal training or good instruments. A lot of these people learn to play on like toy guitars or broken guitars, and sometimes with guitars that like couldn't even be fully strung. And a lot of people kind of develop these very unusual and unique approaches to guitar playing like that. I mean, if you're not coming from anywhere where someone can teach you better, and that's just the way you know how to do it, and then you start making a career out of it, why change?
Yeah. I'm going to play the other song now.
Do it. What's it called?
It's No Room in the Inn, Sean.
Side B, only track.
If they would have known he was the Savior,
They would have made room for him.
they would have made room in the end
For your Savior,
for him. If they would have known
if they only had
he was the Savior,
I believe everybody
they would have made room
it all.
in the end
Oh, yeah.
for him. If they would have known
That he came to
he
save the whole
came to save us,
they would have made room.
they would have made room
They would have made room
in the
end
end for him.
our Savior.
If they would have known he came to save us,
They would
they
have
would have made room
in the end
in the end.
for Christ.
Yeah, if the guitar had been out of tune or something like that, I could see that fitting nicely on the Songs in the Key of Z collection of outsider material.
It does. It would fit so well in that. Like, I hadn't thought about it in that context, but it completely makes sense.
You know that first track on Bob Dylan's Nashville Skyline, the version of Girl from the North Country with him and Johnny Cash, where it sounds like
Yeah.
they didn't quite rehearse it before
Mhm.
pressing record. That's almost what I get from that one too. Like, all right, got the lyrics here, and you do this, I'll do that. I think we're good.
But both of those songs just have like a beautiful quality to them because of that. And it would have been an entirely different thing if they'd had polished it down and removed all of the supposed flaws.
Yeah. Yeah, that one is the whole way through kind of very free of rhythm. It's
Yeah. Yeah, it gives you that floaty feeling. They do that a lot in their songs, and I love that
Mm-hmm.
when like melodies just kind of draped over with no rhythm and you just feel like you're floating in space. And man, just that passion. I don't think I've ever felt that strongly about anything in my whole life. So
Yeah.
just to hear that is infectious.
Mm-hmm.
you might sound that way if you wrote a song about despising a 10cc record. That might bring out the passion.
But still, it'd just be a different kind of passion, though.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
Different spirit.
I love on a lot of these raw gospel songs where you can just really hear the room on the vocals. And especially with Sullivan's delivery, where he has those sections where he just gets real loud and everything distorts a little bit. I just love that. It gives me chills, you know? And I think it's also just further proof of how much music is really the universal language, because you can take something like this that is highly religious, and people that are not very religious people can still be affected by it, can still be moved by the raw emotion and passion that's put into it.
And the hype vocal kind of thing that Iolo is doing there is to kind of simulate how they would do it at the tent revivals.
Yep.
Where, you know, they kind of feed the audience the next line to sing. But like the way it's played out there is kind of bizarre to me.
On the record here.
Yeah. That gives it more of that sort of outsidery vibe. And like you said, where he just really pushes it and it starts distorting. It just, I don't know, the whole thing, I feel like I hear it in a way that it wasn't meant to be heard, but I think is how a lot of people might hear it nowadays.
Yeah, what year is this? How far removed are we from when this was released?
This is 1968.
1968. It's a little later than I realized, but
Yeah, this is pretty late. And I mean, they started having hits in 1952. So this is almost 20 years later. And if you listen, they kept putting out material through the 70s, through the 80s, until 1994 when Iola passed away. And they didn't change. Like, they stuck to this formula. You know, some of the production in the 80s stuff is a little bit slicker. They clearly brought, like, real deal players in to a degree, but it's still the same, like, revival kind of country-ish vibe with just intense, passionate singing.
I will say, for all that we've said about it having an outsider quality, it's still far better executed than that other gospel record that we did in the main line of episodes, the Donna and Roy Moe.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
But I mean, that makes sense with the bells on that, how that was like an established feature of gospel music. But yeah, white gospel versus black gospel. One of them is obviously much more fun to listen to, at least to my ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that mostly covers it. In 1972, they played one of their only, like, I don't know if secular's the right word, but kind of like mainstream concerts. They did the 1972 Newport Jazz Festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure offhand who else played that year, but that's interesting to think of who they might have been sharing stages with.
Yeah, I have no idea either. And the whole rest of their career was like in churches, at tent revivals, at like gospel concerts. They did not really cross that line very often. Well, only once to my knowledge.
Yeah.
You want me to read you a couple people that played the Newport Jazz Festival in 72?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Pharoah Saunders Quintet, Cecil Taylor, Bill Evans Trio, Elvin Jones Quintet, McCoy Tyner Quintet, Miles Davis, Sonny Rollins, Herbie Hancock Sextet, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Herbie Mann.
Wow.
Yeah, plus the Consolers at some point in the middle of all of that. What a festival.
Yeah.
Huh.
When they see the consolers, the drugs are kicking in.
Yeah. So Sullivan passed away in 2010. He continued singing off and on till he passed as well. So they did their thing. They did it well. It was a very strange thing to me, but they killed it, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think this is all I've heard by them, but I think this is a fantastic record. Cool little find.
Yeah, you can find more by going to Sean's garage in the summer.
In Philadelphia. Or do you have a garage in Philadelphia, Sean?
I
No.
don't. I've got a basement and I've got a Discogs.
Yeah, DJ Hardbarker.
Find me at either one.
Oh, true. It's better if you show up at his house, though. It really makes the experience better.
Yeah, if you show up at my house without the plague, come on down to the basement and listen to records.
I know this is premium content and we know a lot of our patrons, but I don't think we're going to give out Sean's address just yet.
Text me and
Do
I'll
it.
give you his
Yeah,
address.
do it. I'm not scared.
All right, that's all I want to say about the Consolers. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. We appreciate your efforts in continuing this venture of ours. This is Peter Cook.
I'm Sean Hartman.
I'm Jeremy Ruggles. Goodbye.
If they would have known
That he came to
he
save the whole world.
came